I mean, I think it's going to be extremely disruptive,
Mm-hmm.
extremely amazing at the same point in time. I actually gave a lecture at MIT a few weeks ago, and the thesis was why AIs will use Bitcoin. And that's an AI. It's a series of essays that I need to write over this summer.
I think that most people don't really know what's going on, Arthur. That's the problem. Yeah, none of my friends at home have got any idea what is going on. They've got no idea. They don't understand what causes inflation. They don't understand.
But no one understands what causes inflation.
Is that true?
I mean, obviously, it's a monetary phenomenon. There's also all sorts of different factors at play. Inflation rates are very volatile when you start going up a lot. Like, there's a cool chart that I think Luke Roman always posts of the price of gold in the Weimar Republic, and it's like this. It's like a it's like a seesaw. Yeah, even though in the end, it got devalued massively. If you traded that, you could have gotten wrecked, even though you had the right.
You
call.
would have done. You would have got wrecked. It goes up and down like hundreds of.
Yeah, and that's the risk we're entering into, because I think it might have been Luke or somebody else said, if you look at the charts now, most charts on modern markets, they look like early Weimar. It looks like we're about to go yo-yo. Like, they want to defeat inflation, they raise interest rates. Interest rates fuck people, so they drop them. Then we get more inflation because they print more. And so it feels like we're yo-yoing into but you think, wow, we're not gonna be like Weimar here in the West. But it feels like we could have that.
It depends on the country, right? I think I've written previously, like, everyone's like, oh, the U.S. is going to have hyperinflation, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't think so. I mean, the U.S. has sufficient food supply, sufficient energy supply, two neighbors who supply them either with energy, Canada, or labor, Mexico, right? And so they're fine. They can be an autarky if the country wants to be. It doesn't have to be. Other countries like Europe are kind of fucked, right? They they think they're America, but then they continually find out that they're absolutely not, and have all sorts of misguided energy policies and don't have the base stuff, right? So again, depends on who you are, where you are.
It's like in Europe, they bet on world peace and they've just figured out that's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had that in the UK. I mean, our energy bills are unfucking believable. People's bills have quintupled?
I don't know.
People used to pay £1,000 a year are paying £5,000 a year for their energy prices, and we're having to source our energy in the UK from France, from their nuclear power. We don't. I think we're 3 nuclear stations in the UK. They haven't commissioned any. Like, it is.
No, there's a new one coming in the UK. There's Hinkley Point.
Oh, Hinkley Point.
In a few years, yeah.
But they've been I'm pretty sure they were talking about that when I was at school.
No, that's going to be. I think it goes live in like 27, but it's underway. They're making it.
Do you think, obviously you look in terms of cycles, so you're thinking in Bitcoin cycles, which we think about, but there's also like larger societal cycles. We are heading to the point where potential collapse of currencies and such. Do you think we'll ever learn, or do you think this is just human nature forever, and we're all fucking idiots?
I don't know. Maybe our AI overlords are going to introduce some interesting new, political systems in our world. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we've progressed as societies over time. It just, everything is very path dependent, right? Being born, in 19 whatever, and you had to serve in World War II in whatever country you're from, that kind of sucked. Being born in 1955, 1916, being part of the richest generation in human history, the baby boomers, kind of awesome, right? Being born in the 1990s and 2000s maybe might kind of suck,
Does it suck? You might have to head off to World War III.
Yeah.
That'd be fought by robots.
You're ready, aren't you?
Yeah.
Have you played with AI much? What do you think of that?
I haven't played with it. I've read a lot of stuff about it, but I haven't played enough with ChatGPT or some of these other things. I mean, I think it's going to be extremely disruptive, extremely amazing at the same point in time. I actually gave a lecture at MIT a few weeks ago, and the thesis was why AIs will use Bitcoin. And that's an AI. It's a series of essays that I need to write over the summer.
You don't need to write them. No, but you don't. You could get AI to write them.
Yeah, but that's not fun.
Yeah, but isn't that the fun bit of it?
Well, I guess I think in terms of what Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So, most people have enough to eat, they can reproduce, they've got shelter, blah, blah, blah. So the next port is self-actualization of who you are as a person, which essentially, in my view, is art, right? And so if you have AI who lowers the cost of doing all the things that just keep us going, then we create a whole society of artists, whether that's you play a sport, you play an instrument, you cook, you draw, whatever it is, whatever non-productive thing that you do that's purely for enjoyment to express who you are as a person. That's a society that we could have. Or we could have a society of like extremely wealthy companies or individuals, everybody else toiling. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. And it's a, clash, right? It's not set in stone. This could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It really depends.
Could we get both?
Probably. I think a lot of it's going to depend on a particular, nation state and how their political fabric works and how decisions get made and what sort of regulations they put in place. And do they have universal basic income? Can they afford to have universal basic income? Do they have a technology or manufacturing sector that's very AI complementary? Or are they like some nations which their only value add is to export cheap labor around the world to do menial tasks? At which point you're like, well, I don't need you anymore. I've got AI with robotics. Why do I need to import labor from Southeast Asia and, wherever, right? And so you're going to have whole pockets of the world that are just completely irrelevant. And that's going to be very disruptive because I think these migration cycles are going to get very heated. If country A, if across the border there's universal basic income and everybody's got a nice apartment and, you can be an artist, you can go out to nice restaurants and enjoy the fruits of human civilization. And literally across the border, you live in a dirt hut because we don't need you anymore. And your country never really advanced up the manufacturing cycle. Well, then you're going to try to move across that border. But then they're like, well, fuck that. I don't want more people coming in here, right? And so you're going to it's going to be very contentious.
Do you know? Have you heard of BT, British Telecom? I don't know if you'd know them.
I've heard of the company.
They're like our Verizon in the UK. They've just announced that 55,000 jobs are being axed to replace by AI. We're using it. We're actively using it all the time. The speed of change is like kind of crazy. What I think about is like, wait, fuck. What was the conversations today? That Levi's won't need models because they can AI generate everything. It's going to kill the porn industry because you don't need porn stars because you can generate AI on the fly. Doctors, you don't need the analyst because AI will do a better job of interpreting MRIs. Like all through society is a whole it's unbelievable amount of jobs are going to go. The speed at which it happens and how governments can react, that's the bit that scares me.
Exactly.
Yeah, just need Bitcoin again.
Of course. I mean, I gotta. I know my audience, right? You know what the answer to every fucking problem is when you read my essays. It's just that you want to enjoy yourself by reading the conclusion that I'm going to have at the end, anyways.
Yeah. You got anything else you wanted?
The only question I did have is, what do you kind of very briefly touched on it earlier, but what do you think is going to happen with this debt ceiling?
Oh, the debt ceiling. It'll be resolved.
Are they going to print $1 trillion coin?
No, they don't need to print $1 trillion coin. Usually what happens is, they delay. Oh, yeah, we're having a breakthrough. No, we're not. Blah, blah, blah. Back and forth. And then, you get to the date. Oh, the date's coming. The market starts tanking, right? And then they get religion and like, okay, yeah, sure, we're just going to raise the debt ceiling. It's like, why do we go through this song and dance? So the Republicans are probably going to get some concession on some particular piece of policy they think is going to be important in the next election from the Democrats. And then they're in the last minute, they're going to come to a deal and they'll raise it by some token amount. And then everybody's happy again.
And have some Bitcoin ready.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, the timing of that, because is that going to coincide with sort of like the fall harvest cycle when we usually get financial, disruption events with the banking crisis, and then you have the federal government issuing trillions of dollars of debt because they need to fund themselves. Like you're basically putting this powder keg together of a situation that's going to be exploding in Q3 and Q4 this year. And so, while I think ultimately it will be good for Bitcoin, it could be quite volatile on the up and the downside.
Okay. All right. Well, don't trade it.
Well, if that's your thing and you're very good at, short-term market movements and you're dedicated to your craft and you're on your phone or your computer all day, yes, trade it. If you think that you can call the markets while you're at the pub and then you wake up in the morning and you're wrecked, well, then you maybe should try a new thing.
I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I've been terrible at it. Arthur, man, great to meet you. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome.
Good to see you. Enjoy your bachelor party.
Thank you.